And welcome back, George Norrie, along with Lainey Dolphin. Lainey, I would sometimes concentrate on an individual who had the authority, let's say, to hire me for a job. And I would go to sleep thinking about that person, telling him in my head, look at George's resume, think about him. And sure enough, a day or two later, the guy would call me.
I love that.
What was I doing? Why did that work?
Well, I'm not an expert in that kind of stuff, but I see it all the time. I think we are amazing human beings, and there's a lot going on that we don't know about, including our ability for ESP. There's no question that we have that ability, and that's great that you put a message out there and it got heard. He was open to hearing the message. I love it.
See, I'm convinced that we all are connected to the wireless internet of life. What do you think of that? Yeah.
I agree 100%. And it's funny, you were asking me about people who are deceased when they appear in your dream before the break. And so on a psychological level, my late aunt appeared in my dream on a psychological level because I needed to access my ability to express myself with the same comfort that she had. So I wanted to lean in to that unfamiliar part of myself. But how do you and I know that she also wasn't actually visiting me? She certainly may have been, because we are big multitaskers. And so whenever someone who is deceased comes into your dream, besides the fact that maybe they really are there, you might want to ask yourself about what associations you have to that person, because very often it's the people in the dream that turn out to be the solution. Like my aunt was the solution to my problem. I needed to speak up to my husband. And because I understood the dream and why she appeared, I was able to get up the next morning and say, could you please not raise your voice at me? It feels like I'm 7 years old and I'm with my dad again. So you slowly but surely, you start hopefully practicing the different parts of your personality that are more unfamiliar, or as Jung would have said, shadowy. You want to exercise these different parts of yourself, because that's how you get to individuation or maturation. It's how you become your own person. Never mind the fact that you don't want to turn 60 and still be responding to waking life situations with that same boring knee-jerk reaction. You want to be able to stretch yourself and access all the different ways that you can possibly respond to people and situations.
It is truly remarkable, isn't it? The whole dream process.
It really is. And I always say that my biggest goal and wish is to give every person I meet a big grab bag of choices as to how you want to respond. So if you learned as a child who grew up in a home with siblings that it's not okay to be selfish, you hear things like, go share your toys with your brother, go look after your sister. And anyway, your whole life experience is about sharing your parents' attention. But there are situations in life that happen where you need to be selfish. Like, for example, that woman, like I was remembering during COVID, who her boss told her, you have to come into work. And because she's such an over-accommodator, she couldn't find the way. She couldn't find the way to say to her boss, no, I'm not coming in. I'm sick. And so you need to be able to be selfish sometimes, giving sometimes, angry sometimes, happy some. You need to get that grab bag of ability, because the more exercised and practiced you are at all the different parts of yourself, of course, the more powerful you are. People never know what to expect from you.
Let's go to the phones. East of the Rockies, Vaughn is with us in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, Vaughn, welcome.
Hello. I'm the Bible slingshot, pebbles, marshmallow, and aluminum man. I'm just telling everybody to get ready. But anyway, George, I've been trying to live a fairly clean life, but I decided to go out to clubs to try to re-enter the dating scene.
Okay.
And when I got back, I was kind of dissatisfied when I got out there and, saw the crowd and everything. When I got back home and, that morning when I dreamed, the setting happened to be at my grandmother's house, and she passed away a long time ago. And it's like the dish sink was in the restroom, and it's like I was washing the dishes and putting them I was washing the dishes in water that I had urinated in, and I was putting it, it's like the sink was there, and it's like I was putting them in the cupboard, and there was a girl that I met only once away from a club, and she didn't seem too grounded. She was looking at me from behind a curtain, and she said, are you going to rewash those dishes? And I said, yeah. So I took part of the utensils and rinsed them off, and I put those utensils back in. But I noticed, reflecting on it, that I didn't rewash everything. Now, I have an interpretation of that, but...
Let's find out what Laney thinks. What do you think of that one, Laney?
Well, I guess the similarity that I noticed, Vaughn, while you were speaking, is that it seems as though you were off the dating scene for some time, and now you're back on it. And so you're kind of rewashing, if you know what I'm saying. You're like revisiting something that you already visited, and I suppose in some ways, if it was my dream, let me put it like that. If it was my dream, it might be about all the dirt and stuff that I didn't like about the dating scene, that now I find myself back in it, and I might be trying to wash off my old experiences, but somehow my old experiences are still with me, even though I'm trying to wash them.
Isn't that amazing what the dream world will do for you?
Isn't it? I agree.
It's remarkable. You don't like dream encyclopedias, do you?
No, because you want to be able to speak to the dreamer to find out why you're having that dream. Like, could you tell me, George, what comes to your mind when you think about a horse?
A horse?
Yeah.
Well, I used to own race horses, so I would just probably think about the winnings of a racehorse.
I love it, the winnings. And so if I dream about a horse, I must be saying to myself that I don't feel like I'm on top of things. Get it? I want you to remember on top of things, because when I was about 10 or 11, and I had already learned to ride, and I really liked it, but that particular day, whoever was in charge didn't strap on my saddle properly, and we went out to ride, and as I was riding,
oh my gosh,
I started slipping off to the side until I landed up riding at like a 90-degree angle.
Right, you could have broken your neck.
Exactly. So with you, so I might bring a horse into my dream if I'm not feeling like I'm on top of something, or I feel like I'm slipping. But you would bring a horse into your dream if something that has to do with winnings, or if you're racing to get somewhere, or, somewhere in your life or whatever. But you see, that's why you can't look it up in a book.
That's a good point. Next up, west of the Rockies, Rivka is with us in the state of Washington. Hello, Rivka.
Hi, George. Hi, Lainey.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm a first time caller too.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
I have a question to ask you about dream interpretation. They took me off of my anti-anxiety medicine, and I started dreaming a lot about my dead fiance who's been dead for 40 years now. And the dream, I was at his funeral, but it wasn't in a church. It was more like in a community center, and there were several people there. And then the pastor told me where he got into his wreck at, and I went there in the dream, and it wasn't anything like where he really died at. This was a dead end, and it had a high brick wall, and
How
there
did
were
you
no
feel in the
flowers
dream?
there or anything.
So, Rivka, so you're saying the dream was totally different than the reality of what happened to him?
Yeah.
Right.
But I
And
had,
what kind of personality did your late husband have?
Fiancé.
what kind of personality? A strong personality.
I'm sorry?
Huh?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Strong personality, she said.
Strong personality. And
Yeah, he
sometimes
was real
maybe
nice
you
guy.
might dream about him during a certain week when you need to access that ability that you have to be strong.
Is the dream about the individual dreaming, or is it about the person who died?
Well, in my line of work, it's about the person who's dreaming. And we choose different associations, different people. Like my aunt, who's dead, came into my dream to wake me up to the fact that I needed to use my voice like she would have. So she was the solution to the problem. When you're able to uncover what is the situation that happened this week, what happened yesterday that triggered this particular dream, then it becomes a lot easier. Like, I have a feeling that's not a recent dream, Rivka, is it?
Yes, within the last 4 days.
Oh, no kidding. And how do you feel inside that dream?
I'm sorry?
How do you feel inside that dream?
Confused. I don't know why these places are different from
What really happened?
The way it really was. And what do you think is going on in your life in this last week? Like very recently, what do you think might be going on in your life that you're feeling confused about? Because something seems different than what you expect.
Confused. Oh, boy, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
That's the road I would travel. Because that's what's going on in the dream is the scene doesn't look anything like the way you remember it.
And Lainey, the fiancé died 40 years ago. Why would she be dreaming of him now?
Well, the fact that she describes her fiancé as a strong person would make me want to be looking at what is going on in my life this week that is requiring me to tap into the part of myself that has some strength.
And it's not particularly bad that she would dream something different from what actually happened, correct?
No, it's probably a reflection of something in your life that is not what you expected. Now, by the way, that could be somebody who usually behaves in a certain way, and we grow accustomed to the people we know behaving in a certain way, but all of a sudden you run into this person and they're not behaving like you would expect. So that's what you want to be looking for. Somebody who didn't behave in a way that I expected, or a place I went to see that didn't look the same as the way I remember it, Or so those are the kinds of waking life situations that would trigger a dream that looks like this.
We're taking calls with Lane Dolphin about dreams. Her websites are linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Rivka, thank you, and hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Next up, let's go to Joe in Long Island, New York. Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, I have a comment on George's dream, a two-part question, and I also want to ask about the psychology. I think with George's dream, I was reading that book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and they say how we do these mental accountings. And if you play golf, why not just make an accounting of, like, the holes with the water traps and how you do on that? Nobody does that. And why didn't George just say, how many teachers did I have that I'd ever want to take a course with again? Nobody does that when they go through a program. You know, would there be any teacher I liked enough that I would want to have another course with him or her? But my two-part question is, when you have a dream, everybody that's a stranger seems vague and you can't make out their faces. And all of a sudden, there's one stranger that's very prominent and very clear. And the dream where, say, you're on a train or in a car, where it's almost like an endless dream where you just keep seeing scenery after scenery, a very long dream. And then on the psychology on Young, let's say the pizza is something you want to 90% avoid. That's like the shadow, the pizza. But the rare times you'll still have pizza, you had to prepare for that. You had to decide what type of pizza I want, a grandma, a regular, a topping. So even though it's the dark side of the shadow, and you're lessening it to a great degree, if you go into it, you have to do a preparation. And isn't that like a contradiction?
I don't think I've ever dreamed of a pizza. Blaney, how about you?
Me neither. I don't really actually understand the question, except the part I did understand was that you were saying that a dream goes on and on and on. But if you know how to deconstruct the images, like I did earlier in the show with that young girl, is that we are constantly repeating ourselves. And so you don't need a big, long dream. You can take one picture out of the middle of a dream, and you're still going to get, it's like walking. I used to have a teacher that would say that you can take a small bouquet and you can get a feeling of what the field of flowers smells like and feels like from having a small bouquet. And big, long dreams, when you analyze them piece by piece by piece, you find out that we are actually saying the same thing to yourself using different pictures and situations.
Lady, we're going to take a break and come back and take final calls with you in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Laney Dolphin. Laney's websites are linked up at coasttocoastam.com. And your two books, Have a Great Dream, Book 1 and 2. Where can people get the books, Lady?
You can get them at haveagreatdream.com. That's the easiest place to get them. And, of course, they're for sale at Amazon as well.
Excellent. Did you enjoy writing those books?
I had the best time writing those books, yes. I actually wrote book 2 before I wrote book 1. And one day my youngest daughter said to me, "Do you have to say it in 350 pages? Could you say it faster?" And so that was when I wrote the overview, which is only 100 pages. Book 1 is 100 pages, and when you're finished, you'll know exactly how to do it. And then if you like the subject and you want to go deeper, then you should read book 2, A Deeper Discussion, because that's the longer book that was actually written before the shorter book.
What is your recommendation on how to remember your dream?
My favorite exercise to remember a dream is to sit on a chair or a couch and look all around the room and notice the wallpaper, the paint, the paintings, the couches, the pictures, everything in the room, and then close your eyes and walk around the room in your mind's eye, because then you're going to wake up that part of your brain that you need to access to remember a dream. And you kind of get yourself in the mood of inside the dream, outside, inside, outside. And so that's the easiest way to do it. Actually, you can still walk around in your childhood home if you want. With your eyes closed, you're able to transport yourself back there and walk around the house. So just giving yourself that feeling of being in one space and then waking up. And like I often say to myself when I wake up, I'll say, where were you just now? And that's how I put myself back in the dream.
Good technique. Let's go to the phones. Ruth in Leonardtown, Maryland. Welcome to the show. Hey, Ruth.
Hi, George and Lainey. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. I just wanted to tell you, this is very similar to what you were just telling her about, George, about communicating, trying to give a message while you're dreaming. About a month and a half ago, I tried an experiment, and it actually worked. And I do give all credit to God. It didn't work the first couple of nights, I think, because I was a little still maybe angry and needed to calm down a little more. But I had this neighbor that was really harassing me all the time, screaming at me, yelling at me, cussing me out for no reason at all. And I tried to talk to him, but, it's hard to talk to people when they're intoxicated, And so then I thought, well, I would like to just, be nice if I could just come over and talk to him while he's sleeping. And it happened. I dreamed that I went over there, and all I saw was his face sticking out of the sheets or whatever. He was sleeping. And what was really weird was it was really hard to get the words out, which makes me think I really did, my spirit really did leave my body. And I was trying to tell him the same things that I was trying to tell him before. Why do you keep picking on me? I've not done anything to you. You're being a bully, and I'm a widow, and you're not supposed to be picking on widows. And anyway, George, and Lainey, I really believe that it works, because much to my surprise, a couple of days after that, this man started being nice to me.
I love that story.
It does work. It does work.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
But what makes it work, Lainey?
And I'm sure that we have ways of communicating. I know, I could be in bed in the morning and I haven't even seen Andy yet because he's in the shower or something like that. And I'll be thinking to myself how I'd love to go to such and such a restaurant tonight. And there he is, comes out of the shower and says, do you want to go to this restaurant tonight? Where I was just thinking about it while he was in the shower. So I am sure that we are communicating with each other in more ways than just words.
I had a call once during Open Lines years ago, Lainey, and we were talking about weird things and strange events and stuff. And the guy told me that he had a dream that he met the woman of his life in his dream. And he would dream about her. And one day, he's at the airport, for real, sitting there in the chair waiting for his plane to start boarding.
Oh, my God.
And he sees the girl walking down, whatever you call it. And then she's walking down the aisle at the airport, passing up gate number 3, 4, 5, coming toward him. She comes right past him, and he stops her and goes, you're the woman I've been dreaming about for years. She stopped and looked at him and said, you're the guy I've been dreaming about. They ended up getting married together.
No kidding. Wow, that is a positively miraculous story.
That is wonderful, isn't it?
You met this man?
No, he called in on Open Lines one night.
That's just really remarkable. Remarkable.
Joe in Monterey, California. Go ahead, Joseph.
Thank you for taking my call, George.
Sure thing. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Joey.
Yeah, I used to teach satsang, spiritual class, and one of the things we would devote some time for our dream interpretation or dream travel. And some of us believe, and the indigenous people around the world also call a dream world or dream time. And we feel that it is a bridge, yes, a bridge to our subconscious, which is a bridge to other dimensions and other realities. Some of us have relationships in our dreams, an ongoing world that we enter, and sometimes we enter somebody else's world, their dream, and what they do. And we might catch up with them and talk about what we experienced, and they say, yes, that's what I do in my dream world.
I love
so
that.
So my question, yes?
Go ahead.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead,
saying
Joe.
I like all of that. And I'm aware that, as I had said at the beginning of the show, my small niche is the language of dreams and decoding what you were saying to yourself when you had that dream as related to something that either happened to you yesterday or something that you thought about yesterday that you are attempting to problem solve. So you can go deep and you can go wide. I like to stay simple first, because if we say, if you say to me there's gold under the ground here, we're going to want to start digging, but we need to know where are we going to start digging. And that's the reason why I stay surface before I go deep. Because if I find out that, I was talking about over-accommodating people who are over-exercised in saying yes. And so if at the surface level we discover that this person is saying yes in a situation yesterday that she would really rather be saying no to, once we understand that, now we know where we can dig for the gold. We can look at, where does that come from? Where did I start being the kind of person who always has to say yes, who always has to accommodate? And that's where you can begin doing deeper work for deeper change. So you're not stuck by the time you turn 60 or 70 with the same knee-jerk responses to the people and situations in your life.
And Joe, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is, and there's a reason why I say this, because there is what we call the waking dream, life around us. We learn the language of our subconscious and the language of the physical universe as a dream, and we see the messages that externally we are getting from everyday experiences, an internal knowledge.
Yes. Oh, my God. I agree with you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Next up, let's go to Don in Alberta, Canada. Welcome. Hey, Donald, go ahead.
Hi, George. Hi, Lainey.
Hey.
Hi, fellow Canadian.
Yeah, another fellow Canadian enjoying the cold weather. We already had Thanksgiving up here. We have to do it early, otherwise we freeze to death.
That's it.
Get that turkey in. Anyway, I have two quick comments, and then I'll get to my long, three-winded questions. No, they're not that long. Anyway, there used to be a guy that taught dowsing on Coast to Coast. He started way back in the Art Bell day, but he would teach people how to resolve issues with other people in the dream state, sleep state, and he said that's the best time to reach their communicate through their subconscious. I can't remember his name offhand. I did go to some of his classes. The other comment, I missed that one. Okay, I'll just go into the future dreams. When I was younger, I used to have dreams into the future all the time. It could be something simple as talking to somebody at a funeral. I guess then you know that person's going to die at that particular time. Or it could be, somebody talking to somebody at work that they brought in. So that means but these would be like 3 years, 7 years, 5 years. Sometimes it'd be like a day in advance, a week in advance. I remember the one time I was trying to beat the train, and I ended up hitting the train exactly as it did in the dream. And they're just so precise and so accurate, it kind of blew me away. I can't turn that switch off, but lately I've been working on seeing, you can see when you're blindfolded, and so you use your third eye to see. But the problem is I don't get what I'm supposed to see. I get all kinds of images of everything else, but this is the question part. So I'm trying to figure out how to focus the frequency down to the physical, I guess. And then the next thing I was working on was lucid dreaming, and I just get dropped into places like you don't know who you are, but then you don't want to give away who you are or tell them that, you have amnesia and you don't know what you're doing. Like you can show up at a place and all of a sudden at work and, okay, there's a building, I got to go in. Then you walk in the door and you try to figure out what you're doing. And then some guy comes up to you with work orders you got to sign off on you. It's like, oh, it's the boss. It's going to be easy. But, yeah, you just and the other thing is I notice when I'm doing the lucid dreaming, you're different ages, like you're younger, older. And what I was wondering is how you could figure out how old you are in these lucid dreams, because you're actually seeing it like you're living it, right? So maybe I was thinking I have to.
Maybe you want to think about, what's going on in the dream and what memory does that bring up, and maybe that will help you get to your age.
Dreams are powerful indeed. Let's go next. Thanks, Don. Let's go to Stan in South Dakota. Squeeze you in here, Stanley. Go ahead.
Okay. The other night you had a guy on that you're trying to think of an author. Was it Arthur Schlesinger?
That may be him. Good guess.
Okay. All right. My dream question is I dream in full-length movies, and sometimes there's famous actors, sometimes not. But when I wake up, it's a full-length movie that has a beginning, a middle,
and an end.
Is that unusual, Lainey?
Not at all. I'm like that. I'm like that, but especially long dreams, if you break them down, you'll see that there's similarities that are coming up inside that long story. But you want to look at the 6 points of entry, because if you catch how you're feeling in the dream, then you can ask yourself, well, what's going on in my life this week that's making me feel in a similar kind of way? Or if you look at the action in the dream, where I'll get a dreamer saying, I was trying to run, but my feet are stuck. So you would, in that situation, you'd want to ask yourself, where am I trying to get to that I'm having trouble getting there? Is it that I'm procrastinating, or is it a relationship that I'm trying to get to a certain place in? So there's different questions that you can ask yourself using the 6 points of entry. But like I don't do the I'm trying to think, like I was going to say, I don't do the voodoo thing. I'm always trying to help the dreamer connect to a very real current situation that is going on in your life this week that you are trying to figure out what to do. Is it that you want to quit that job? Is it that you want to say something to your husband or your wife? Is it that you're trying to lose weight? So I am always looking at current situations in the dreamer's life that they are attempting to problem solve. I'm not really looking at future stuff, ESP, although I do see it happen constantly, but I'm looking at the dream from this specific psychological point of view. I'm not looking at it from, even though I am a spiritual person, I am not looking at the dreams from a spiritual point of view. I'm looking only for the problem solving.
Lainey, thank you for being on the program. Keep in touch with us, okay?
As always, you're such a sweetheart.
Lainey Dolphin, name of her books, Have a Great Dream, Book 1 and 2. Her websites are all linked up for you at coasttocoastam.com. Quite remarkable individual indeed. For Dan Galante, Donna Walker, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladouceur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian Punnett. I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.